Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
There is one in there. Yeah.
Well, there's not a subtopic. Shouldn't be a subtopic. Okay.
Yeah. And then I just called.
It's almost good.
I'd like to call to order the regularly scheduled Board of Education meeting for Wednesday, January 18th. We will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. We're going to be led by Charlotte Waldeck.
Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Cool.
Take a roll call. Mr. Baker?
Present.
Mr. Beshore?
Here.
Ms. Biondi?
Present.
Ms. Brown?
Here.
Ms. Fergus?
Present.
Mr. Bader?
Here.
Mr. Wells?
Here.
Any changes to the agenda at all?
No changes to the agenda.
Make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion and a second. Mr. Baker?
Yay.
Mr. Beshore?
Yay.
Ms. Biondi?
Yay.
Ms. Brown?
Yay.
Ms. Fergus?
Yay.
Mr. Bader?
Yay.
Mr. Wells?
Yay.
Motion passes 7-0.
Okay, item 5, Board President and Vice President elections. So at this time, we'll take nominations for President.
Make a motion to nominate Larry Beshore as president.
Second.
Can I see that, Mr. Susan?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I have a motion and a second for Mr. Beshore to nominate for president. Are there any other nominations? Seeing none, we shall vote. We have a motion and a second. Mr. Bakeridge?
Yay.
Mr. Beshore?
Yay.
Ms. Biondi?
Yay.
Ms. Brown?
Yay.
Ms. Fergus?
Yay.
Mr. Bader?
Yay.
Mr. Wells?
Yay.
Motion passes 7-0. Larry Beshore. Larry.
All right, I will open up now nominations for Vice President.
Make a motion for Nancy Fergus as vice president.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second for Ms. Fergus to be vice president. Do we have any other nominations? Seeing none. Mr. Bakeridge?
Yay.
Mr. Beshore?
Yay.
Ms. Biondi?
Yay.
Ms. Brown?
Yay.
Ms. Fergus?
Yay.
Mr. Bader?
Yay.
Mr. Wells?
Yay.
Motion passes 7-0. Ms. Curtis is on the house.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, guys.
Get sandwiched.
Sure eating.
And Johnny exhales.
Well, thank you for that. Next up on the agenda is the Patrons and Informational Forum, community recognition.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Mrs. Goldman, do you want to join us up here or do you want a video? Okay, that sounds perfect. Great. Well, we're going to start off with the wonderful spellers from Piper Creek Elementary. On Friday, January 13th, 16th, 4th, and 5th graders representing each of their classes participated in the Piper Creek Spelling Bee in front of the entire student body. These students won their class level spelling bee in order to receive an invitation to the school-wide spelling bee. This evening, we are pleased to recognize the following students for their outstanding achievements. And when I say your name, you'll get a little wave so everyone knows who you are, okay? 4th graders, we have Brody Bauer, Layton Gerkowicz, Anna Adorn, Addie Nichols, Kaylin Post, Sophia Saft, Kenton Todd, and Adelina Wagner. In 5th grade, we have Will Days, Simon Leon, Jacob Lauder, Liam McFarland, Soraya Monroe, Simon Thom, Charlotte Waldeck, and Sarah Watkins. After 12 rounds and a tight finish, 5th grader Charlotte Waldeck of Miss Garris's 5th grade class narrowly beat out Layton Gerkowicz of Miss Boyd's 4th grade class when she spelled potentially correctly. Charlotte advances to represent the Piper School District at the Wyandotte County Spelling Bee on Saturday, February 4th at Wyandotte High School. So congratulations to all of you, and Charlotte, congratulations and best of luck.
Brody?
Simon, Jacob, Liam, Soraya, Addie, Kaylin, Sophia, Simon, Kenton,
Yes.
Adelina, Sarah, and Charlotte. Congratulations, guys.
Thanks.
Okay, congratulations. Okay, this team, I would like to introduce the Piper High School Girls Dance Team. Come on up. You guys can go ahead and sit right here. The Piper Girls Dance Team competed at the Acacia State Game Day Spirit Showcase competition in November and placed 5th overall in the 5A division as one of the smallest 5A teams. The team has been working hard over the past several months to perfect their game day routine, which consisted of 3 dance portions: the school fight song, the band dance, and halftime performance. This was the first of several competitions for the team, as they will be competing at the Lee Summit North Invitational in January.
This weekend, now this
This weekend
weekend.
coming up, and that's a good one. And then ADTS Nationals in March. Congratulations to the Pearls for a great start of the competition season. We're excited to recognize head coach Krista Bradley and assistant coach Audrey Reynolds. In addition, I'd like to introduce the dancers. We have seniors Jadea Bell, Ty Janae Hooks, and Riley Merrick. Juniors Layla Blankenship, Adele Eikenberry, Heina, is that how she says it? Okay, there you are, good. Heina Matthews and Caroline Vogel. Sophomore Riley Hayward, and freshmen Allison Buckner, Riley Hanshoe, and Maddie Richardson. So, and then we have the team manager of also Lucy Menace. So congratulations to you guys. I was there. You were awesome. So proud of you, and best of wishes this weekend and the Georgia Nationals.
Thank you very much.
And lastly, I want to just take a moment and recognize that January is Board of Education Appreciation Month. January is the month in which we celebrate Community Board of Educations. The Board of Education is the school district's governing body as set forth in state and federal law. The board is responsible for setting district policy, adopting an annual budget, and approving of general district matters, including personnel, curriculum, facilities, and other district business matters. Our colleagues and teammates at the Piper Board of Education are individuals who are deeply vested in ensuring that all students succeed and reach their full potential. Additionally, they unselfishly serve our community to provide a world-class working environment for our employees. As a superintendent, I truly could not ask for a more qualified and dedicated group of individuals to call my colleagues and teammates. From the entire Piper School District and community, please accept these words as an indicator of our appreciation for you and your role as community servants. As such, we'd like to recognize John Bakeridge, Larry Beshore, Ashley Biondi, Kim Brown, Desi Fergus, Jeff Bader, and Julian Wells for being the best Board of Education in the state. Thank you for all you do, and there is a token of our appreciation on the tables for you. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is community member input. Do we have anyone this evening? No? Moving on, next item, consent agenda.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Mr. Bakeridge?
Yay.
Mr. Beshore?
Yay.
Ms. Biondi?
Yay.
Ms. Brown?
Yay.
Ms. Fergus?
Yay.
Mr. Bader?
Yay.
Mr. Wells?
Yay.
Motion passes 7-0.
Next up, we have bank reconciliation warrant register and cash fund balance reports.
Make a motion to approve the bank reconciliation, warrant register, and cash fund balance report as presented. Second.
Have a motion and a second. Mr. Bakeridge?
Yay.
Mr. Beshore?
Yay.
Ms. Biondi?
Yay.
Ms. Brown?
Yay.
Ms. Fergus?
Yay.
Mr. Bader?
Yay.
Mr. Wells?
Yay.
Motion passes 7-0.
Next, item 9, written reports.
Yes, we have one written report for you this evening that was submitted by Mr. James Grogan, who is not here this evening. But as this is a first read, really I would ask that you read through that, see if you have any questions, and then next month we will discuss this. So in between now and next month, if you have any questions that I can answer or James, please let us know. But in essence, this report is about as we look at our continued one-to-one deployment of student devices. We're now at around where we need to be purchasing more for next school year, and James is diligent about finding the best price on the market for us, and so we have an opportunity to look at 250 Chromebooks that would go into play for next school year. So we would ask that we discuss this in next month's board meeting, and in the meantime, any questions, please let me know.
I just have a question real quick. Is Chromebooks the way to go? I feel like I'm seeing more schools that have Macs, and so I just don't know, as we continue to walk into like our pathways and we add, some of the graphics and things like that, is this going to be a double cost, or is there an opportunity that with the next purchase we look at a different operating system that maybe would be advantageous for some of those academies that we're going to be putting into place? I just wanted to throw it out there. I know they're much more expensive, but is it the best thing for the students?
Yep, I think that's a great question. I would say that's part of what we want to discuss next month.
Okay.
A lot of school districts that do this, what they will have is perhaps a Mac lab in place. So if we're talking about journalism, yearbook, broadcasting, those things, and then have some devices that students can check out, if they need to take them with them. But overall, we have the same device, so for teachers, as they're dealing with students in the classroom, it's uniform, it's the same. But I definitely think that's a great thing for us to be talking about, because we do have programs that very much will need to have the more specified MacBooks.
Okay, just thank you. We
Yep.
can talk about the next one.
Next, item 10, presentations.
Absolutely. I'm going to ask Mr. Wynn to come forward and help us with the introduction of the song.
Good evening, everyone. Piper High School's new Pacific Student Association hosted the Asian Alliance Conference at UMKC on December 2nd, 2022. I was honored enough to be in attendance to support our students on that day. The association's teacher sponsor is Ms. Bonnie Yang. More than 150 Asian students from 10 metro schools connected with each other, networked with Asian American professionals, and workshopped ways to amplify their voices with Startland EDU. The effort was funded by a grant from the Kauffman Foundation to support equity, inclusion, access, and belonging associated with real-world learning. It's my pleasure to introduce you to this student group. I'll ask them each to introduce themselves as they come forward, and then share a brief presentation regarding the great work they've already accomplished.
Hi, my name is Cho Tran. I'm a sophomore at Piper High School.
I'm Lily Jennings. I'm a freshman.
Hi, I'm Ryan Hullum, and I'm a sophomore.
Hi, I'm Maven Capote and I'm a senior.
Okay, so about the Asian Alliance Conference. Piper High School's newly created Asian Pacific Student Association hosted the Asian Alliance Conference at UMKC on December 2nd, 2022. More than 150 Asian students from 10 metro schools connected with each other, networked with Asian professionals, and workshopped ways to amplify their voices with Startland EDU. The effort was funded by a grant from the Kauffman Foundation to support equality, inclusion, access, and belonging associated with real-world learning.
So some of the professional that we encountered were Catherine Yu from San Marco Casey. She's an interior designer. Jackie Wang, who is an owner at who is an entrepreneur. Adora Yang from Service Math. She's a consultant. And Nen Liu, she's a curator of Chinese art at Nelson Atkins Museum of Art. And here is our professional panel from the picture. And as you can see, we have our moderator, John Lin, ask questions, and yeah.
Okay, so the question that was really driving like the conference for the students was how might we amplify Asian student voices so that their wants and needs are heard, acknowledged, and addressed in school environments. And so what they had us doing is we were like brainstorming ideas and different ways we could like connect with other Asian students. And so I don't know if it'll look this is me talking about our idea, and I can explain it a little. Okay, well I'll just explain it. So basically we came up with the idea of, we had an Instagram ad for like an Asian outreach center that was gonna be mainly for Asian students where they could go and connect with other students who were going through the same things as them, or just somewhere they could feel like they were accepted and comfortable. And that was really the idea behind what Piper came up with.
These are some of the pictures that we took in. The main point of Asian Student Union and the meeting that was hosted was everyone coming together from different cultural backgrounds of the Asian ethnicity. And these are like, these are all the Asian students. And these are our group. We're holding the t-shirt that I have specially created for everyone. The t-shirt represents like everyone coming together and like just us showcasing that we are proud to be Asian. And that's it.
questions for
Yeah.
the group?
So what's the next step? Do you guys have anything planned out yet for the next conference potentially, or get together with the other schools?
Currently, we plan on having another conference in the following years because I think something that resonated with me at the conference was that like in this conference, all Asian students are there, and that's kind of our community. And from that, we want to like build more from that, and just have everyone acknowledge like our culture and like just spread good things.
So I have a question. So as we're sitting here as board members in front of you, what is something that you think is really important for us to know as we're moving forward, thinking about components that we're adding to the curriculum, different things that you would need support from the board and Dr. Dane?
I think just like having the resources, because like obviously Piper's Asian community isn't that big, but just knowing that there are like ways we can connect, because before Asian Student Union, there wasn't really any ways for us to like be connected with people who like had similar backgrounds as us. And so just like having the resources to talk to the other people who are going through the same stuff with us.
I personally experienced this because before this year, I was the only Asian student, or I think I was the only Asian student here. So it was kind of hard for me to like connect with other people because like they're not my race, they don't know like what I like to do or like the foods. They used to make fun of it back in like elementary school and middle school. But now that there's like more Asian students that we're trying to like get together, we can all experience the same things and come together and like join as like a family member or like a close friend.
I just want to say I think this is really great. I have two boys who are Asian, and they don't know a lot about their Asian heritage. So I think it would have been really great when they were in high school or even middle school, any time throughout school, to be able to have this network and this group to connect to. So I just applaud you guys for being able to put this together and to be a part of it. So great.
And before they step down, they're a new group, and they coordinated that event that had over 150 students. So it wasn't just them attending, they actually were the organizers of the event, from the designing the t-shirts to getting the adults that spoke. And I was there for the day, and it was just very powerful for them to have that connection and then talking about how they're going to go back to their schools and share the message. So the support within a certain group that has, you know, the cultural backgrounds that are the same and stories that are the same, and at the same time assimilating into their schools and sharing it so they can share the message and we can celebrate all of that diversity. So as we look at our goal, our strategic plan, connected culture among all, these guys newly formed this group and stepped up and led a major metropolitan event. So we are just super proud of them.
Next, item 11, discussion, possible action. First one up is finalize the construction contract with J.E. Dunn.
Yeah, so we actually, if you'll remember, in February, last spring in 2022, we agreed in the vote, voted on and passed that we would be using J.E. Dunn as our at-risk construction manager for our bond projects. But since that time, we didn't finalize the actual contract, which we need to get in place as we are ready to move. So tonight, what you have in front of you is that contract. I do want to say a special thank you to Mr. Bankridge, who's been a great support for us as we look at the details of that, as he has that expertise. And also to J.E. Dunn for having the patience with us as we got this completed with our attorneys. So at this point in time, it's really just finalizing the contract. So we would ask for your approval to finalize that contract tonight.
And Johnny, you did give the blessing on it?
I'd be very careful with that. I just looked it over, and
Okay.
there
There
was
wasn't
just
anything
some
that-
things that need to be filled in with respect, more so to dates,
Okay.
more so to clarifications, things that, you know, in order to execute it, that would need to be on a document.
And did those get adjusted and updated then? So this is the revised version after a
He
quick.
was a support for me as we worked with you,
Okay.
as I worked with the attorney.
So no full thanks until the project's complete.
Make a motion to approve the contract with J.E. Dunn for projects consistent with the Series 2022 general obligation bond issue for the terms and conditions within the attached contract.
Second.
Motion and a second. Mr. Bakeridge?
Yay.
Mr. Bishore?
Yay.
Ms. Biondi?
Yay.
Ms. Brown?
Yay.
Ms. Fergus?
Yay.
Mr. Vader?
Yay.
Mr. Webb?
Yay.
Motion passes 7-0.
Okay, Mitch, and then, Jeremy, do you wanna come on up here for our next couple of action items? So Mitch, do you wanna go ahead and start us off on the payout?
Sure. In front of you is the first payout. The process for these will go through the procedure of J.E. Dunn puts it, information together, goes over to IDS and they review it to make sure everything is in place regarding what's being requested in the particular pay application. There is retainage that's pulled out. Jessica, you want to go to the next page, please? So you'll see the little okay in there from IDS. From that, there's retainage that's held out that will be paid upon acceptance of the job. And that, I'll turn it over to the experts that put the numbers together.
So this is pretty simple, because we haven't done a ton of work other than spend time with you over the past several months doing some pre-construction work. So our pay application reflects that, it reflects some supervision as far as management time, supervision time on site, and then obviously the work that's being done in place right now as far as our trade partners have gone, and that's just built upon a percentage of work that's complete. So that, in essence, is what application 1 is going to be. It'll be a similar story, except you'll see more trade partners being brought on as far as the work that's being complete on the project. I will send that through IDS, same process, through Dr. Dane and her team to validate the percentage complete reflects the actual work in place. And that's pretty much the summary of the payout process.
This is probably a question more for you. We are collecting trailing waivers. Are we just collecting unconditional trailing waivers from the previous pay application, or what does that process look like?
Well, those would be, if I'm understanding your question, Johnny, the lien waivers and whatnot are attached to the document, starting there.
This is the lien waiver for J.E. Dunn, and then we will be also obtaining those from each one of our trade partners, but this covers Piper for the whole value of this pay application.
So it's that, like, after this, so next month we would see, so for instance, let me pick somebody, Earthworks, so Rodriguez. I didn't see, did you bill for him this month? Yeah, so he's got a little bit in, so like 109,000 in. So on the next month of the waiver process, we'll also have not only J.E. Dunn's waivers, but we'll be collecting the waivers that those trade partners actually submit unconditional waivers for the previous month's pay application, just showing that they were paid for that on the trailing process.
And I'm gonna say, I assume that's the way the process will be.
We get those from Rodriguez, so it's whatever information you want, we can share. Some owners do and sometimes don't, so it's up to you. We will provide that information.
Make that as part of our.
I mean, I think it's just good for the file, for the ownership standpoint.
So what does a motion look like in this situation? Is it just like approve the December pay app number 1?
Yes.
Okay, make a motion to approve the December pay app number 1.
Second.
Okay. Have a motion and a second. Mr. Bakeridge?
Yay?
Mr. Bishore?
Yay.
Ms. Biondi?
Yay.
Ms. Brown?
Yay.
Ms. Fergus?
Yay.
Mr. Vader?
Yay.
Mr. Wells.
Yay.
Motion passes 7-0.
Okay, so the next item that we have is the second bid package. You've already approved one, so the project is broken up into some different parts. And so if Jeremy and Tim, if you guys want to walk through what all is included in this bid package, and then we'll be asking for your approval on this.
Do they have this?
They do.
Yep.
So what's the difference between the two?
So bid package one was mainly the earthwork contractor, site utility contractor, and the precast contractor. Am I missing anything?
That's it.
So the next one is we've got more drawings from IDS.
Yep.
And so we went out to bid for basically the structure of the building.
Yep.
So concrete, structural steel, help me tip.
Ram decorated piers, and then we also did 131st Street improvements because those drawings were done, and really we're trying to get firm numbers on as much as we can as soon as the design is done on each of those packages.
Okay, so, but they're different though, right? I just want to understand, because like the first one had, I think, when I looked at it, the precast concrete was like some huge number, and then on this one, it's not.
Yeah, so this is a separate dollar amount we're asking to approve. We're not rolling it like an aggregate. So this is a separate dollar amount, separate from what was in bid package one, and that'll be the same process as we go through bid package 3, and then we have probably one more final one with the state improvements, etc.
So we could see some, you know, again, that line, that precast concrete could be a little bit of something in every.
So yeah, and then back to the payout, that will be a combined number in an aggregate. So you're going to see a total number on the payout as we bring on more of these bid packages.
Okay.
So the reason that the precast item had $4,000 more is as the design progressed, there were a few changes related to precast.
Okay.
In that instance, some of the openings got smaller.
Okay.
So there was more physical precast. And so we vetted that with IDS to make sure that it's in line with pricing.
So if we don't make changes, we shouldn't see more of that.
That's correct.
Got it, okay, because that seemed odd that we would once have it and then have it
Yep.
again. And then on the 131st Street, was there, I mean, fixed then? Is that what we are paying to get that done, that 596? I mean, there was no, did we try, was there some work? I thought we were doing some work to try to get that off of, or at least reduced to some capacity from $600,000.
So we have two packages that we're looking at right now. One, I think you're talking about being dramatically reduced or even hopefully not paid, is that $500,000 for 123rd Street. Because we don't believe we're gonna need road improvements bigger than what we did for this, for phase 1. This bid package is talking about what may need to happen, what will happen on 131st for the backside of the school. So originally what we had budgeted was 800,000, so that number is slightly less, which is a good thing. But we are hoping, I think what you're thinking of is that we don't even have to pay that 500,000 for 123rd Street. So this is 131st. This is a different.
So, yeah, no, I was thinking for 131st Street. So the 800,000 that it originally was, did it get reduced to the 600,000 because we're doing less work, or because we negotiated with the UG or someone to pay less?
So we did negotiate with UG throughout this process because originally they had us improving, if you recall, one half of the road all the way to the very south end of the property. As a compromise, they're allowing us to improve the entire road from
Leavenworth
to a certain point of the property that becomes the south part of the property in the state improvements. So, and that ends up being less money than the 800,000 was originally budgeted.
Okay, so the road will stay the same that it is from that point that has been agreed upon to the end of the property?
That's correct.
Okay, I still think that is so much money, for us to have to do. I mean, I know, I feel like we've been down this road and talked about it, but that just is so frustrating. And so if we approve this and say yes, I mean, we're spending that money. Because I just feel like we shouldn't have to. And I just want to continue to fight that fight. I don't want to hold up construction, but that $600,000 to improve a road that is not even our road is just ridiculous.
Yeah, I certainly understand your frustrations. I don't know what recourse we have with UG to change.
Just not do it.
I'm sorry.
What if we just don't do it?
We probably would have the ability, and I'm really starting to reach.
Do what?
To not provide us the permit
Yeah,
to the rest of the
Yeah.
project if we don't do that work.
And I would think if it's prolonged, I mean, you think at the price of it now, it's not gonna get any cheaper the longer you put
It's
it
not a
on.
battle that
So-
we're in a position to win.
No, and I
With
appreciate the
UG.
passion behind it, but that's a conversation that, like, from 6 months ago. That we've been working on that stuff for a
I
while,
agree,
and this
Tim.
is
I mean,
the,
I don't wanna do
this
it
is the
either, but
result
I don't
of
think
it.
there's any way around it.
going
Yeah,
from
I know, I'm
300
just
to
looking at
600.
$600,000 I'm supposed to say
Yeah.
yes to, and
Mhm.
so
Completely understand your comment, your point, and your passion for looking after the dollars for the project.
I can say that from a design perspective, the team tried to minimize it as much as possible by putting sidewalk only on one side of the road and working with the UG on all the little things that we could to minimize that cost, what used to be a bigger cost, so.
Yeah, because wasn't there a lighting situation where they were able to help us out with or something where you didn't have to remove the lights or something? I remember talking about that at one point. Do we need the motion for the specific dollar amount or just kind of in general?
I think we can just go ahead and.
As presented.
We would be asking for approval of bid package 2 as a whole.
Okay.
And if by some miraculous reason, way, that there is some way that that can be negotiated, the total doesn't necessarily, each of those line items is, like, let's say, for example, we were able to find out that 131st Street, they would let us only do XYZ, or they'd contribute some funds that somehow they found to be able to help get that road in the way that it needed to be. We're just approving the amount to be used to the project. You have this 596 allocated for that. Should there be some reprieve there, we could use that money for something else.
Yeah, it's no
Okay.
different than other changes on the project which may reduce scope.
Okay,
That contractor is obligated to give money back
okay,
for work not put in place. So no different in that situation if we're able to have conversations and reduce that scope to some order of magnitude.
okay. I just want to make sure that if I say yes, it doesn't have to go to that, because I still feel like there's,
I hear you loud and clear, we will work on that. As we move through this, I think, Kim, you raise a good point, as you see right here, we talk a lot about the GMP, the guaranteed maximum price, so we would say that would be the maximum, so hopefully we could lower all of these, but they're saying from the word, this is the maximum.
okay.
They couldn't come back to us and say, hey, now we need something for this, so I will work on that.
If there are no other questions or comments, make a motion to approve the bond project bid package number 2 as presented.
Second?
Have a motion and a second. Mr. Bakeridge?
Yay.
Mr. Beshore?
Yay.
Ms. Biondi?
Yay.
Ms. Brown?
Yay.
Ms. Fergus?
Yay.
Mr. Bader?
Yay.
Mr. Wells?
Yay.
Motion passes 7-0.
Well, thank you for approval on all 3 of those items that related to our company and the project, so thank you.
Thank you guys.
Thank
Thank you
you.
guys.
Thanks.
Next item is KASB December 2022 policy changes and updates.
Yep, so thank you. This is another item in which we are asking for discussion and then hopefully approval this evening. So as you guys are aware, twice a year, KASB looks at policies, giving us legal advice. They share these with boards, and then the recommendation from their team of attorneys is this is what they believe is best practice. So this is just the 6-month update of some policies that have been presented to you for the last 2 months.
I'll entertain a motion if no one has any questions.
Make a motion to approve the KASB December 2022 policy updates as presented.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. Mr. Bakeridge?
Yay.
Mr. Beshore?
Yay.
Ms. Biondi?
Yay.
Ms. Brown?
Yay.
Ms. Fergus?
Yay.
Mr. Bader?
Yay.
Mr. Wells?
Yay.
Motion passes 7-0.
Next up is Piper High School Strength and Conditioning Course Offerings.
Yeah, so this is a topic in which I just wanted to open up discussion based on a continuous improvement item that was brought up last month in December. We talked about the a 0 hour, what that could possibly look like. And through that conversation, while we weren't ready to maybe look at the big piece of 0 hour across the building, what I realized came out of the conversation is that we have a more specifically strength and conditioning, in which I believe we have more students that are trying to get into than the sections that we're offering. And so from the meeting, I wanted to take some time and go back, talk to the PE department, talk to head coaches, the administration, the counselors, and really walk through what that looked like and bring back for us for discussion as we kind of honed in on what would be the next step of that. So what I have for you, and I'd like to just walk through this and then open it up for questions, is I listed for you the people that were in attendance for that meeting. And then what really came to light for me is the process that we're using for enrollment and how we make a section and how we make courses and what that looks like in the master schedule. So this is no different than any other course. This is just kind of a recap for you that we do a beginning piece in February where we get information from the kids. It's not the specific hour, but they look at the course guide and they say, hey, these are the 7 or 8 classes or more that I want to be looking at taking next year. So we get an idea of what that looks like. And then from there, the counselors take about 6 to 8 weeks. They take that information and they create a master schedule draft. And then in April, the kids actually, through arena scheduling, look at that draft and they say, hey, I would like to take this class first hour, this class second hour, this class third hour. It's from that meeting in February in which those courses and those sections are established for what the kids see in April. So that is the same year after year. And Mr. Wynn, I'm gonna look at you really quickly. Are we so far so good on that process? Okay. So what came back in the meeting with the head coaches and the PE teachers is I think we were missing some steps in proactive communication between head coaches, athletes, their parents, and what that could look like. Because the head coaches all said, we'd like to be involved, we'd like to have our kids in those programs, but we didn't realize that we should be talking to them about that in February. So it's from those February numbers that we then begin to build the master schedule. So what we decided to do, as we know right now we only have 5 out of 8 sections, which it's difficult for kids, especially their junior and senior year, when they're looking at graduation requirements. Some of them are in singletons like AP classes, band, some of those things. And if we don't offer 8 out of 8 sections, then potentially some kids can't get into those strength and conditioning classes, or they have to choose between that and an AP class. So as a 5A school district, I do believe we need to have at least those. I want to have every opportunity to have those 8 classes full, or at least we're offering them when the kids come to the table in April. So what we talked about and what we've outlined for you is you see right now the current enrollment process and what that looks like, which, to be very honest, is pretty hands-off with the head coaches right now. You also see what I want to bring to your attention is current Kansas graduation requirements are that students have 1 semester of physical education, which is typically taken in 9th grade, and then 1 semester of health. So what this committee wanted to do as a first step is get a better handle on how many kids actually want to be in strength and conditioning, so that we have a better idea of what sections will look like in April when they actually go through and do their enrollment. So what we have outlined for you right there is that in January and February, head coaches are going to directly communicate with their student athletes. They're also going to communicate with parents. And another thing that they wanted to add in here, that you see is the second bullet, is they want to start talking about what the expectations are going to be if you are going to compete at the varsity level. So they believe they would like to have at least 4 workouts a week of strength and conditioning. That doesn't mean we're maxing out every time that we're in there, but that looking at strength and conditioning is a part of a varsity program and expectation with that. Then in January through early February, this will be a very new piece for us. Head coaches are going to send a list to the counselors of these are the kids that we believe we should see enrolling in strength and conditioning. Then the counselors, once the kids give those course selections, again, not their specific schedule, but just these are the classes I'd like to be in, the counselors are going to share that back with the head coaches so they can do a cross-reference of, okay, Jeb Bader is on the varsity football team, but he didn't enroll in strength and conditioning. I'm gonna go have a conversation with him and find out why that's going on, what's in his schedule, et cetera, et cetera. So you can see we do that, so we have that cross-reference with the head coaches and the counselors. Then from there, we have a better idea for the counselors as they work to create that arena schedule. And then in mid-March, what I'd like to do is revisit with that committee what those numbers look like after that first run up the hill with the students and the courses they want. And then I'd like to come back and share that with you so that we have a better idea of, now that we are doing a better job of really promoting the communication, what this looks like. What do our numbers really look like in strength and conditioning? And can we fill their needs during the day, and or do we need to be looking at offering strength and conditioning, which may or may not be a 0 hour before or after school? Because we could have some kids, potentially juniors and seniors, that don't have room in their schedule to take strength and conditioning, but we want to have opportunities for them to have that strength and conditioning before or after school. In addition to that, it's not just for student athletes. It can also be for kids that just want to take care of their health. It can be for kids that run and do things outside of school. So we're taking offerings that we want to give to kids, not paying $50 to belong to Lifetime Fitness, if we can offer opportunities before and after school. My personal view of this is, what I'd like to have is the information when we come back in March. After that meeting, I really realized I think we can do great things if we continue to look at not only the offerings during the day first, but having a stipend for somebody that is a strength and conditioning coach. So it's not a head coach that's already coaching, working 12-hour days, and we're saying, hey, by the way, can you go ahead and run the weight room at 6 a.m. or stay late after school? But that's actually a stipend, and we have somebody that specializes in strength and conditioning. We can talk about nutrition, we can talk about sleep, all of those things. And I would liken it kind of to a special education student that has an IEP. We kind of look at strength and conditioning that same way. All of our kids, whether they're athletes or not, have a certain plan, and we have somebody that really specializes in strength and conditioning that can be offering training. Because what a cross-country runner needs is completely different than what a football player might need. So that is where, and I kind of wanted to stop here, take a breath, open it up to the floor, because although last month we talked about a 0 hour, I think we can be offering more opportunities to our kids during the day and before and after school, and not have to maybe look at a 0 hour, what that means for GPAs, having teachers and coaches come in at 6 o'clock in the morning, but rather someone that's not a head coach, that's the job that they want to do before and after school. So I'm gonna kind of take a breath there. That's what I'd like to do in March, so that we can really look at that accurate data, because I don't think that we have collected the data like that. And then we can look and see what that looks like, and we open up the arena scheduling in April. Head coaches are still talking to parents, et cetera, et cetera. Then that program starts running through the summer. So I think we landed in a good spot for next steps as we talk about this. Future action items that I want to bring to your attention for us to start thinking about and looking at is many neighboring districts around us allow kids, in lieu of taking their 9th grade PE class, they can take the strength and conditioning in lieu of that. So that is something that a lot of our neighboring districts are doing. Before we jump to that, I want to have an opportunity for Mr. Boyd and I to have a more curricular conversation with the PE teachers. What are those standards that we want to have in place? But I think it's a good thing for us to be looking at as kids are growing their personalized schedule. With that, I put some questions. What impact will removing a portion of the freshman student athletes have on 9th grade PE classes as it relates to class size and staffing? And then in addition to that, if we would add it, what does that do for our staffing for strength and conditioning and the capacity of the weight room? And then lastly, as we look at if we would do that, what does that do for our progression of our kids that are in some academies that PE, strength and conditioning, all of those things are going to need to be in alignment. So we can have those conversations, but we're not ready to have them tonight, but I think they're future action items for us to be talking about. And then in addition, you'll see there consideration of hiring a 12-month full-time strength and conditioning teacher or coach. I think that's something that could be a nice fit for us. And then lastly, another thing the coaches talked about is, do we want to be looking at offering a weights program at the middle level once those kids move to a current high school and we actually would have a weight room that's available to middle school students. So those additional future action items are not items for us to discuss tonight because we don't have all the answers, but what I did want to open the floor on is taking the conversation from last month from 0 hour to, hey, I really think we can do some things during the day, offer opportunities before and after school that doesn't have to be 0 hour.
I have a question and a half, maybe 2.5.
Sure.
Current 5 of 8 sections we have offerings for strength and conditioning.
Yes.
Probably more specific than it needs to be in January yet, but Mr. Coker is instructing those right now. The 5.
He and Coach Richmond are our 2 strength and conditioning coaches that run that.
Gotcha.
However, what is important to know is that anybody that has that physical education teaching license can teach strength and conditioning.
So do we have the capacity
Doesn't mean
to
that
go
that's their level of expertise,
Right.
but they do have the licensure.
So do we, do they have the current capacity to go from 5 to 8 and then maintain their current duties and
So-
have a plan period?
That's what I'll be able to tell you in
Yeah.
March.
Okay.
Because what I don't have is that actual student data.
Yeah.
So if you think about it, it should be able to work out because right now we don't have full 8 sections. Even the sections that we do have aren't full. And we can have 2 sections every hour. We decided to cap that 45 to 50 with safety is what we want to have in the weight room. So I will be able to give you a better answer on that in March.
Okay, and then I guess my second question would be, there's a lot of reference to student athletes and the process they're in. And you did reference the non-athlete students, and how does that plug into the process? It looks, I don't know, for lack of a better term, more preferential to student athletes, and then, going down the road, maybe being mindful of ensuring that the student athlete isn't, gonna kick a non-athlete student out of a section to make sure that all the kids have the opportunity to access strength and conditioning.
So these notes are really more about that meeting that I had with that group of coaches and the PE teachers, but I think what's vital for us to talk about is that this could be opportunities for all kids as we talk about equity.
Sure.
I was talking to somebody about the fact that my son doesn't drive. So even though we could afford a gym membership at a gym, he doesn't drive. So having an opportunity to do it during the day or before school and after school would be great.
Right.
If we have students that just their schedule's full, but they like to run, they're a lifetime, person that takes care of their health, that they could come in and have access to a coach that's going to tailor and make a program for them to follow, even if they're not on the football team or cross country team.
Sure.
So I think what we will have to do and talk more about the details in March, which is why I wanted to talk now, is what is all of this gonna look like?
Right.
We have 300 kids that say, yeah, I didn't realize this was a process and I wanna do that. What does that look like for
Right.
us? So I think I'll be able to give you more answers on that. But I do wanna say that this isn't just for the student athletes. This would be this would be for all students.
I have a couple. You said Coker and Richmond are the
current strength.
current now. Are they both coaches as well?
Yes.
So does that, in the seasons that they coach, obviously they are gone during some of those periods?
They could be. It depends on if they're varsity or JV, if it's a home game and away game, but potentially from time to time, head coaches do leave school early to go to events.
Where I'm going, I guess, I like the thought of having somebody that is full-time, 12 months, that's what they do, to alleviate some of those issues. I love that our staff also coach, but it does bother me when they're not in the classroom doing what they do with the students that are still in the classroom.
So I think we can look at this in a variety of ways, and I think once we have the student enrollment data back, it will be a springboard for us to talk about it more. But some schools, and we looked at 5 and 6A schools in the metro area, whether they're right next door to us or Johnson County, other Wyandotte County schools. Some of them they hire somebody that is a teacher during the day. And then they also have a stipend. They're not a head coach, and they run the before, maybe just the before, or maybe just the after, and they have some stipends. Some of the schools, that person does not teach, but they have a stipend to be there every morning from 6 to 7 and every afternoon from 3 to 5 or something like that. So I think we need to see what our numbers look like, and then those would be some of the next decisions that we can make. What I believe in moving away from having our head coaches and coaches do the AM and PM is it's not asking anybody to be there 15 hours a day when they're in season.
Absolutely.
And then if we do something like that, those coaches would all still be talking to each other, similar to a college program. You'll see a weight and conditioning coach, but he talks to the football coach, he talks to the volleyball coach, and they run, or she, and they run different programs.
Yeah.
So I think we have a variety of ways that we can look at this. After that meeting, I feel like that is more an area that I would like to pursue versus the 0 hour at this point in time.
And then moving forward, just being mindful of all of our students, whether they're an athlete or just academics. I just want to make sure we're not limiting any opportunities. In here it talked about the coaches really stressing their expectations. I just don't want an athlete to feel like, okay, I have to hit all of these benchmarks or be in strength and conditioning all 4 days a week and then give up something academically that they've really strived for as well.
Right.
I think that's my thought. I don't want to limit them from tech or any other opportunities that they may have if they take an additional strength and conditioning class because they feel the pressure of, I have to do this or I'm not going to be able to play at the varsity level.
Yeah, that's why I think
been the
along
problem.
with what we
Yeah.
have during the day, we want to look at having that AM and PM, but it doesn't have to be a class, right? So, but they can be in there and doing things. We know, I mean, not only is it better for their performance and mental health, but it also decreases injuries, all of those kinds of things. So,
Or disease.
I think we want to have both things on.
When you're talking AM and PM, you're talking about like a 0 hour, similar to that, or maybe not call it a 0 hour, but you're talking about before school.
I am.
Or, because I guess my thoughts on this is that if you're gonna open it to all students, I think that's a great thing. However, I think strength and conditioning is gonna, for that teacher, if you have football players in there right now, it's not football season, it's basketball season. And then you have just a student for the well-being that you're talking about. Strength and conditioning class is one thing that you can, it's just kind of a generic way, the way I view it. The early morning or the afternoons, in my opinion, is more sports specific, because I think if the ultimate goal is to improve well-being as well as the student athlete, those are probably two different ways of lifting and two different programs. There's again, just the strength and conditioning is a general, you do 10 push-ups, or you do, as compared to in-season workouts for a sport are sports specific. And so I guess if you have a sports specific class and then you have just a student for the well-being, they're gonna have to do, I would think they're gonna have to do, it'd be awful difficult for that teacher to have that program up on the board of their reps and what they need to do. And then you have just the student, if you will, that's for well-being. They're gonna have, they can't have another program for them. I think that would be just way too difficult for the teacher.
It shouldn't be. It should be. As a strength and conditioning
That's what they
specialist,
do.
what I used to do, you can program,
Yep.
if we have
That's
a
what they
cross
do.
player, wrestler, basketball player, swimmer, you can program that, and whether it's via email, you have your program, you bring in your program, whether you're training in the off season, you're trying to gain 10 pounds of muscle and it's May and your season's in September, now you're in season, you can have that program, and you have a general wellness, general fitness athlete in there as well, or a student just in training. You ought to be able to, a trained, the CSCS, what I used to hold, should be able to do that. just like any gym, you have multiple clients, people doing different things in that same space for different reasons, different
Well,
objectives.
I just know schools, and if you wanna check those other schools too, but I believe that the schools that you're referring to, the bigger schools they are sports specific. Football off-season weights for football, they go in the morning and it's the football players, there's no students, wellness students there, it's the athletes. And again, so they have that set program for off-season, in-season, different days of the week, so on and so forth. And again, I'm just to beware that, in my opinion, I think, I'm not saying it can't be done, but I think you're putting a lot on that teacher to have 2 or 3 different, because again, how's the teacher's gonna, more than likely, is probably be a coach in one of the sports. And so they're gonna wanna watch, if it's a football coach, they're gonna be wanna watching their football players, not so much Larry over here in the corner trying to do 3 pull-ups that can't do them and count them out. So I think that just that stuff is just to, as you move forward, just to be conscious of or discuss and see.
Good stuff.
They shared in the conversation today, or this week, or when we had a meeting, that they already do some of that now. They have circuits and different kids running different programs, so it's not out of it. But the other thing that they discussed is they feel like the schools that have really successful strength and conditioning for all kids have someone like the training, like Julian was talking about, where they're running different programs for different kids. That includes nutrition, includes sleep, includes recovery and all of that. Now, just because we talk about they're doing a workout 4 days a week doesn't mean 2 of those days they're not in strength and conditioning class, and 2 of those days they're not in the morning or the afternoon. There are a million ways that we can look at this. But I think to kind of maybe move the conversation that originally came up as 0 hour, and where we kind of thought it was everything, is really like, let's tackle what the enrollment process looks like. Let's start with this. Let's see what interest we have, and then look at that coaching aspect, because I think at the end of the day, where we were concerned is asking our head coaches and assistant coaches to do 0 hour on top of when they're in season, they're teaching and doing all of that. So it's been a great 2 weeks of learning. I appreciated the topic coming up. And I think our next step is, let's see what our actual when I have numbers that I can answer specific questions in March, and then we move forward from there.
I think it's a great thing moving forward with this, so.
I would like to add one, sorry, Larry.
No,
And I was like, I have
would
a
like to
couple
add
questions
one point
too
to
after
it.
you.
And I know, again, I think this is all incredible stuff. I'm not gonna go on to the bullet list of what I read. The one thing I do wanna bring up is you are getting these numbers in this program, and I apologize for not bringing it up prior to the meeting, was that identifying, the one thing that I think that just needs to be kind of looked at is for the coaches to identify their varsity level players in their eyes defeats the next man up purpose of creating a program, not a team for the year. And so I don't want to identify the senior and the junior who's at the varsity level, or maybe that sophomore who's going to get there. I want to be able to pluck the freshman who could be a superstar by the time he's a junior. And I don't want to not have that ability for that player to be. So if we focus on just the players that the coaches pick for whatever reason to be those varsity level players, and they don't focus on all of their athletes with the same attention, it's not a next man up program, and you can't build a dynasty of excellence. You literally will have a good team, and then you're constantly trying to rebuild for the next season instead of building a program. So I just, that's the one thing in that I would say I'd love to have somebody just take another look at.
Okay, so, and I appreciate that. I think that's what I was trying to communicate here, so I appreciate the question. We can articulate it better. That what the head coaches said that they want to be able to do is tell players in 7th grade, if you want to be part of the football program and eventually play at the varsity level, this is the kind of work you're going to have to put into being.
And there's a shift
I
in.
misinterpreted that. I thought that was the coaches to the counselors as well, telling them these. Okay, yeah, no, that makes sense.
Okay.
Perfect.
Yeah, but I think it's a good point in that we do want to talk about this. That this is more, we don't want it to be a surprise to parents if they come to 9th grade and then like, what? This is the expectation that we want to talk about each program, which may be different, that, hey, if this is what you're wanting to do and play at the varsity level, play in college, it's more than just coming to practice. There's
Yeah.
going to be strength and conditioning that comes
Reduce your risk of heart disease. I mean, there's a million things, right? So first of all, love the conversation. I'm so glad. I was super excited to see it back on the agenda. I do want to cautious us, though, in the numbers that at the end of the day, the heartbeat behind this is that every kid has the opportunity to have a healthier lifestyle through a strength and conditioning program of some type. And I think a lot of this is around the student athletes, but to Johnny's point, there could be a superstar student athlete that exists, but just because this has been the way that it is, can never get in that class. So if a superstar athlete is in band and is in Spanish and is in AP English, they will never get in that class. And so what I have seen from personal experience happen is when they don't get in as a freshman and they don't get what they want as a sophomore, they stop requesting to even be in that class because they know it's only offered those certain days. I've seen it happen. And so I just want us to recognize the fact that when you get that data, that there could be, we want to push out just communication to our patrons and to those that have any interest in being in strength and conditioning, that they actually put it as an elective, even if they've known in the past that it doesn't match up with what right now is our part-time band teacher that only can teach 1 hour. And if they know that that is something that they have not been able to get in, I want to encourage just the students and the staff to articulate that if you have a desire to be in it at any capacity, put it on your choice list. And then I also want to make sure that if we get those numbers back and we're like, okay, we have 200 kids, I really want us to pay attention that those 200 kids, if only 5 of those kids on their schedule can only get into it in a P4, then that's still 5 kids that have value in being in that class. Now, you might have to switch some other things around, but I don't want to put a lot of weight in the fact that, we can get 25 kids in a class and we already have 5 classes and there's 125 options, because I can promise you it does not work that way when the schedules start to, you bang your head against the wall trying to put things together. So just if we have 5 kids, 10 kids that want to be in strength and conditioning and their schedule doesn't allow them to, we shouldn't go to those kids and say, sorry guys, you can't have this opportunity. So I just want to caution that. And then also we talk a lot about the strength and conditioning. Right now we have PE teachers teaching mental health. And so I feel like if we have this conversation, because we've invested so much in just the emotional and well-being of the kids, that I've started to dig into so much research, and I hope we can have more conversations around this, that we need a certified strength and conditioning coach. This isn't a class, I think, that is it's a certified strength and conditioning coach. And so whether that is something that we look at putting into as we grow, someone that runs the summer program, so that we're not running our coaches or teachers or whoever decides they want the extra pay this year because they have the time. Like, this is something that is more than our athletic excellence, which is something we need to grow in if we want to compete at 5A, but it's also what I'm learning, such a key element to success academically, lifestyles, longevity of life, all the things that I didn't look at it from that perspective. And as I started digging in, my mind is literally blown on how it improves academic excellence. And so that happens with someone that literally has gone to school to get a designation to be a certified strength and conditioning coach 12 months out of the year. So anyways, I'm excited. I hope we can continue this conversation and give our kids what they deserve.
I have last final questions, comments. Again, I appreciate, as everyone said, that you're looking forward to trying to get some numbers to have more of an understanding of what our students are asking for and needing, rather than just saying, it's a need. We're going to have some concrete numbers. I do have a question regarding, to go back to coaches to kind of have a consensus. What I'm hearing you say is that there's training that you're doing in season, off season. What is the expectation that these coaches are going to their students of saying, we want you to have strength and conditioning during season? Would I want you to have it during the off season? What are we doing for those students that are in two different sports, they're in football than baseball? So are we looking at these students potentially, if they're phenomenal sports players, freshmen to high school, that they would potentially have 8 times strength and conditioning? And how is that going to impact their overall credits towards graduation? So I was just trying to figure out how that is going to play in for those students for their credits as well.
So
I know you don't have any
Yeah.
probably full answer about
Yeah, but
that.
I would just say a couple of things, that is a great conversation, what we've talked about this group at the high school, that we're gonna come back and talk about, that's really not at the district level we're gonna make that decision, but programming those, because even right now, like, the head baseball coach does have some expectations for what strength and conditioning need to look like. I do think the idea, again, of, as I've looked at it, continuing to look at that full-time or strength and conditioning coach, somebody that's gone to school, has a certification, knows what an on-season athlete needs to be doing versus an off-season athlete. So I think we have some things that we can continue to talk about what that's gonna look like for the athletes. The bigger picture that came to mind for me, and even having, children that went through this, is there may come a time when, even if it's offered every hour of the day, my daughter needed to be in these classes for her graduation requirements, to finish her academy, the courses that she needed to have. That's why then having the opportunity to have something before and after school, I think is a good thing for us to realize we need both. Because there may come a time when they just can't do it during the day, but then we have some options for them before and after school. But I'm still not sold on it's a 0 hour. Because I think that does a whole lot of other things for us, and potentially, if we would use Julian as an example, he would have a licensure, but he's not a teacher that could come and do it during the day. So I think, there's so many things for us to look at, that they could be writing workouts, and our teachers would have the expertise to run those workouts, but somebody that really specializes in it may not be able to do it during the day. They might be able to or not. There's a different formula for every school district that we looked at, and I think that's the next thing we need to do. However, to your point, families are gonna have to decide, as they do enrollment for their students, what are we gonna look at for credit, where is it important, and at some point, you may not be able to have it during the day, so then what does that mean you're doing before school, after school, during the season, off season, et cetera.
And I love the thought process, because I was looking at it from the perspective as we literally try to wrap our arms around academies. And we are going to have some academies that exercise science and, strength and conditioning or personal training or some of those life science classes that are going to require more of that. We just aren't able, it's interesting that KASB actually changed the requirements for the 7th graders on the PE requirement, because there are so many elements of just the life science pathway that kids are going into. So I think it's cool that we literally get ahead of it, because that's for, what was that ruling was for 7th graders. But if we can already start to put in place the option that we'll have additional pathway courses for some of these that give those 7th graders next year or the year after, before they even get here, a chance to be in the zone with their credits to graduate, is important, because we have to watch that side of it too, with the pathway changes on the credits.
The last piece is, I know as we're looking into March, we're gonna get some numbers. I'd be curious in tandem, I know you're already probably going to do this, is I would like to know, coming back, other than strength and conditioning, are there other courses that students are vying for that they can't get into because of scheduling? What other conflicts are we seeing, so that we also have an open lens of all of these courses for these students, and are there particulars similar to strength and conditioning that we're just missing, that we're seeing that we're having more of a need?
Yep. So we can definitely do that. Just for background information, Mr. Wynn, you jump in here if I'm incorrect, but typically for a class to make, we like to have at least 10 students in that classroom. Less than 10, we may have 8 students that enroll, and we say that class doesn't make, because 10 is kind of that minimum, but if we're going to invest FTE of a teacher, we need to have at least 10 kids. And that's very common in all school districts to do that. And then you have the other end of, what's this class capped at? That may be instructional materials, the size of the class, a general ed class versus an AP class, that kind of stuff. What I believe I'm going to be coming and talking to you in March that couples with this is us looking at most likely band and vocal music, both at the high school and in our middle school numbers, because right now we're splitting those, and those then make singleton classes that then compound this issue. So we will definitely come to you. We'll have all of that data.
Okay.
So we'll be bringing the other things that like, hey, here's something that came up on our radar.
Well, and I also like, I don't know if I said it, just even classes that we know we're maxing out, we're sitting at 30 plus kids that want to be in here, or 30 kids for a class that is a graduation requirement, but we don't have the room for it. So just to make sure we're not sitting at super large class sizes as well.
And just everyone be vocal in the community that if you've wanted to take band, but your whole life you heard that you can't take it because when you get to high school, it's a year-long class that you have to have in second period on a white day or whatever it is, put it on there as something that you're interested in, because this has been like a legacy of just, you can't do that. And this is an opportunity for us to say, what is your heart's desire? What do you want to be involved with when you get to high school? Put it on your choice as something that we can see. So just spread the word.
Yep. So in between now and March, I think if you, as you read through this, if there are additional questions that you want to be sure that we bring data information, please let me know. We want to give you that information, but we would like to ask this on the March agenda.
Okay.
Continue discussion.
Perfect. Thank you.
And thank everybody that contributed in your meeting too.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on, item 12, superintendent comments.
Yeah, tonight I would like to use my time to visit with you and share with you the recommendations that I would like to make for staffing projections for next year. As you know, we're the third fastest growing school district in the state. So we continue to have more students that are in classrooms, more students in our schools, anywhere from the curriculum that we're offering to the supports that our kids need. And so with that, over the last 2 years, we've really focused on our ESSER funds, our academic data, looking at those intervention pieces. What you're going to see that I would like to recommend, and tonight we don't need to ask for approval, but rather share, kind of get your blessing, like this sounds good, and or if you have some concerns, let me know that you don't feel like this fits in the vision. But what we're really seeing on this list currently right now, without going through the final enrollment piece, are areas in which even right now we're struggling with our growth and being able to manage support. So what you see there is that we would like to add a third administrator at the middle school. So that would be an assistant principal / athletic director. We would like to add a middle school counseling secretary registrar. We would like to add a middle school math interventionist. We currently have this for English language arts, but we don't have it for math. So as we look at MTSS and supporting those kids that need additional support, that we have a math interventionist there. The middle school elective teacher, right now I'm kind of putting a hold on, I want to make sure that we budget for this. Mr. Lynn and I had a long conversation today. I'm pretty sure this is going to end up being band / vocal, so that we have one, we don't have the split that we have right now, but I'm not quite ready to say that, but I know that we're gonna need an additional elective offering as we look at our growth and numbers. As we switch to the high school, we'd like to add another assistant principal at the high school level. Similar to the middle school, we just have continued numbers and continued needs for supervision. With our academies, we're going to need an additional industrial technology teacher, and then also a high school physics teacher. So as the enrollment in academies are driving enrollment, these are the next FTE that we're needing for that. We need an additional ESOL teacher that would be primarily placed at the secondary level. So right now, if you know Mr. Poplo, he serves all of our ESOL students at both the middle school and the high school, and the caseload is too big, in our opinion, for him, that our students need some more attention. So we'd probably need one at the middle school, one at the high school. We would like to, this is the only district level position that we're asking for this year, but have a communications director who that is that person's role right now. Jenny Hurley handles both human resources and communications, and then Amber Buck also helps us with communications, especially our social media, along with community outreach. We are getting so big and we have employee issues and what we want to do as we look at our human capital goal and the strategic plan to really focus on those things is have an HR director and communications director so we can continue to grow our branding, the service that we're giving our employees and the public. So those would be new positions that would come out of the general fund. So obviously, Mitch has been a conversation in this with us and what we can afford as we look at next year's budget. The other positions that you see there are a continuation of our conversation about as Piper grows, we are continuing to need less services from the co-op with USD 500. And so these last year, you were kind enough to allow us to hire related service providers. These are the next set of positions that we would like to hire. We have enough students to have full-time or 0.5 and above in these positions. You'll see there though that the column that they're marked in is different because those would not come from the general fund, but rather we get funding from the state that goes into special education. Right now, we pay a large amount to the co-op because they staff those people. So what we would do is we would be keeping those funds and hiring our own. So many, many years ago, even SPED teachers were hired through USD 500. And as we've grown and evolved, we now use our SPED funding to pay for those positions. So this would be the next round of positions as we believe we can continue to be more independent with providing special education services. So I just wanted to make sure everyone understood that there were two pots of funding that we're looking at for that. So with that, I'm going to open up the floor and see questions or concerns that you may have, and if not, that we would like to move forward in posting these positions.
I've got questions.
Sure.
So the high school assistant principal, does the AD still keep an assistant principal title?
So they are assistant principals because they have that designee. What we would like to do is take less of the assistant principals away from Dr. Mapp so that he has more time to handle the athletic pieces.
Okay.
But as I've spoken with them at the high school, what they'd like to do is he may still have a group of kids that he serves, but it's going to be much less so he can give more attention to all of those athletic responsibilities.
Okay, that answers that.
Yeah.
Okay, and then with the communications director, with the title director, who would be reporting to them, or what positions? Do we know that?
So it would be just like right now, so Jenny is our HR director, she reports to me, so the communications director would report.
Would the communications director have anybody underneath them?
We haven't built that in, but
Okay.
right now I know Jenny and Amber would be thrilled to have this person so that they would be willing to help. But really this person that would be their full-time job, but they wouldn't be, at this point in time, they wouldn't be managing any other staff. However, as we look at our academies and as we look at capstone experiences, we have opportunities to have internships with students that want to go into these fields. So I do believe they're going to have some support at a high, we can look into that.
I just thought with the title director, I thought, and maybe I'm wrong, I thought people all the way to title director had people reporting to them, but maybe that's incorrect. And then the half physical therapist is at the high school.
That's for the
Just
district,
different,
across
so
the
kind of where,
district.
okay. All right, thank you.
Yeah.
I just have, go ahead, Larry.
Oh, I'm sorry. So I heard you saying Jenny does the HR as well as the communications, but what did you say, just to be clear, with Amber's position?
So Amber supports, right now, she supports communications as well.
Right.
So and Jenny, you could speak a little bit more to it, but like right now, Amber, she has a journalism background. That's why we were lucky to be able to pull her. She handles our Twitter, our Facebook, our Instagram. Like she does a lot of that focus on social media, those things that are kind of the regular, we're moving the board meeting. We have Jenny Franz who does the website, so this would be another support for Jenny Franz, whereas Jenny handles a lot of crisis communication when we have those things that happen. When Amber puts things together, she still shares those with Jenny, and Jenny will say yay or nay on that. And I don't know, Jenny, if you want to talk a little bit more about some of those other comms pieces.
Yeah, if I'm understanding your question correctly, you're kind of wanting to know what other roles is Amber?
Yeah, because I know you're doing a dual, you're doing a dual
Yeah.
role. You're a human resources,
Yeah,
and then you have communications.
right.
Is Amber just communications?
So Amber supports communications as well as, I mean, the biggest pieces of her job are the DEI, inclusion efforts, as well as she's like the liaison to the foundation, which keeps her really busy. So between those two tasks, I'd say maybe 20% of her time is dedicated to communications, so.
Okay.
And she handles that, and she's the first line for community partners. So as people in the community want to get involved with our academies, we have this process where Amber's the first person, and she typically passes off to Polly Beers. We look at real world learning. So she's doing a lot of different things, and just like, you know, like the students that you saw tonight, our Asian Alliance students, I mean, we have a lot of great things that we can do for kids, but we don't have right now a lot of manpower to support where I think we could go. So it would take some of those responsibilities off of her plate.
So just to clarify, so that at the middle school, we would have the middle school principal position, which is posted right now. We would have a middle school assistant principal,
Which we have right now.
which we already have. And the athletic director component at the middle school is kind of a hybrid thing, right?
So right now we have Mr. Brian Ray, who we call an administrative intern, so
Okay.
he is the athletic director. And then he gives up his time as he can, sometimes to come over and help with discipline if we have an issue. It's nice that he's over here in the CTE building with our 8th graders over here. So where Polly supports the high school kids that are here with her administrative degree, he can be here on site and help us with some of that with the middle school. So what I'd like to do is make that position a full-time administrator, because he teaches classes right now as well. So if we look at that position, it's no longer a part-time teaching, part-time administrative intern, but it's a full administrative position with the focus on academics and supporting assistant principal duties as needed.
Okay, so principal, assistant principal with no athletic duties, and assistant principal with athletic
And activities.
and activities responsibilities. Okay,
Yes.
so which makes sense for a middle school. At the high school, we have principal. We currently have an assistant principal, and we have another assistant principal / athletic director, and we would have another sole just assistant principal.
Right, so what I think is one of the things that we need is, I think we could look at, each one of them would have an area of expertise. They have some assistant principal duties, but right now, like the athletic director, their area of responsibility would be the athletic piece. If we look at Mr. Cave, who's our other assistant principal right now, he has a lot of expertise in academies. So as the academies continue to grow, the role of Polly Bader right now, like she can continue to do all of that, and as we look at the middle school design. So they could have an area of expertise. The other person could have an expertise with activities. So band, cheerleading, vocal music, some debate, speech, all of those things. So I think we see each of them still having some assistant principal responsibilities. They can handle things, but also really being able to specialize in some areas as we look at our strategic plan that we're trying to grow.
I mean, I agree with specializing. I feel like if we're making this change, then we should actually make a change to have an athletic director and 2 assistant principals with our principal, instead of kind of halvesing what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
And I don't know what that looks like, if that's, you know, focusing on just an athletic director instead of an assistant principal / athletic director. Because if that's the model that we have at the middle school, it makes sense because there's 3. When we get to the high school, I just feel like, especially with what we are competing against in other schools, with the new facilities that are coming online, the use of, you know, the gyms, the fields, the basketball, I mean, all the things. And what I do feel is being pulled so thin. Why do we pull it so thin? Why don't we just say, okay, we are going to shift this, that we have a principal and 2 full-time assistant principals that can specialize in maybe the learning side or the discipline or whatever that is, and pull those responsibilities away and say, we're actually going to post for full athletic director and full assistant principal, and, you know,
Well, we wouldn't
choose
post
where you
for
want to
the
be.
athletic director position because we have one.
What's that?
We wouldn't post for an AD position because we have an AD.
But he's also our assistant principal,
Well,
so he's kind of half and half.
He was more.
He's
hired
really
for
an
an
assistant
AD,
principal. I mean,
though.
He's more of our AD, and what she already stated earlier was that part of this move is to really pull a lot
well, he
of
can.
this-
I'm not saying that
pull
we have
a
to go
lot of
find
this-
someone new. I'm just saying.
Focus.
What she
We have
said
to focus.
earlier was part of this move was to pull a lot of that other stuff away from him so he could focus on athletic director. But he could potentially have some other things that he can help out with still.
When we have emergencies, when we have a discipline issue that needs to come through, that we need a little bit of help on, other people are busy, but we can definitely do that. I'm sure he would love that if he was the full-time athletic director. What we'd like to ask permission tonight is to use this funding to have a second assistant principal at the high school that's doing more of the assistant principal duties versus the athletic director duties.
It effectively does the same thing, just depending upon the staff that you have, you can allocate their resources and their abilities to do that.
And I guess my only question, so you guys, Mitch and Dr. Dane, you guys, I guess, have looked far enough to know that these are sustainable positions as far as, not now, but again, I always look at sustainable to where, yeah, we have it this year. Well, then if something, I'm just not one, I hate the fact of even thinking of where would have to go tell somebody next year or the year after, well, we can't afford it. I know that's the unknowns, but I'm just thinking that you guys believe that we're set.
Based on
good.
the CPI and the new school funding and what schools will get, that's what we based all of this on.
Okay.
In addition to that, we believe there's a very strong chance that we're gonna get the full funding for special education, which right now we pay for some special education after we spend the sped money from the general fund. So we definitely believe that we can handle this. The other thing, this does look smaller this year than the last 2 years because we've had teachers and staff that we brought on with ESSER funds, and those monies are not going to be sustainable. So those are the positions we're also having to work back into the general fund. But this is we went out, we met with all of the principals to get their feedback, and as much as we want to prioritize everything, these are the positions that we can afford that we believe are a priority for us for the 23-24 school year.
I have a question regarding the middle school positions. I know that we added 2 positions after break that they're filling with long-term subs. Those will also continue. Like we
Yes.
will have, that will be posted as well
Yes.
for full-time positions for next year again.
Correct.
Okay. And then on here it says the ESL teacher, would that be high school or like secondary or elementary?
I think it's gonna end up being a secondary.
Okay.
We would wanna visit with Mr. Pablo about his particular assignment, middle school, high school, or they may wanna do it a different way, but we can't serve all of our secondary kids right now.
Yeah, I just would like to ensure, like, as we're posting it, that it's
Yeah.
defined for
Yes.
those, like, cause there'll be friends
Yeah.
that wanna
We-
do high school and friends
yeah,
that wanna
we
do
will- we will
elementary and
visit.
not do both.
Right, yeah, we will
Um,
visit with him, and then when we post it, we'll be more specific, but we wanted to kind of get the blessing from you guys that this is the pot of money right now that we want to start looking for those new positions.
Is there room on here that if, as we are doing some of the findings with the schedulings, that we could add a full-time certified strength and conditioning without compromising what we have listed here? So we have room. Okay, I like it.
Final comment, I'm super excited about our SPED potential, and the main thing is school psychologists that will be ours to help us define students that need supports.
This will be a big deal for us to have those people in the district every day. So those are it for my superintendent comments for you.
Thank you. Next is continuous improvement topics. Anyone have anything?
We got a hot one already.
No? Okay. Next, executive session for non-elected personnel.
We were thinking 10 minutes.
I think that
Make a motion, we move into executive session pursuant to the Kansas Open Meetings Act for matters related to non-elected personnel, to include Human Resources Director Jenny Hurley for 10 minutes, and we will return at 7:45.
Second.
Have a motion, and a second. Mr. Baker?
Yay.
Mr. Beshore?
Yay.
Mr. Young?
Yay.
Ms. Brown?
Yay.
Ms. Fergus?
Yay.
Mr. Baker?
Yay.
Mr. Wells?
Yay.
Motion passes 7-0.
Larry, next weekend, is that right?